for a sec, maybe like 2 minutes. Just want to make sure all systems are good. Okay, it looks like that we are live. We're gonna wait so that everyone can start to hop on here. So excited for this. This has been something that Liz, Amy, that we've been talking about this for a bit, and October has been dyslexia, not just Dyslexia Awareness Month, but also Bully Prevention Month. And this is a really important conversation that we're going to have tonight. So as parents and our audience starts to come in here, I definitely want to encourage you to please just message and post a comment as to where you're watching from. There's nothing more beautiful than our community. It's really people from all over the world. So, hey everyone, let's do this. So I'm Jake Sussman. Welcome to another insightful Facebook Live panel discussion hosted by Superpower Mentors. Now, in this 30 to 45 minute session, we are joined by several of our Superpower mentors, and we're going to talk about the impact of bullying as it relates to kids with learning differences. It's something that, we talk a lot about, the impact that dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and other hidden disabilities can have in the classroom, but also on the playground. So our mentors, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, are going to share some of their expertise and their personal experiences on growing up through school, dealing with bullies, and how we're going to help give some tips on how to conquer them, and some ways that parents that are watching here can help your kids also just navigate the complexities of someone that is a bully. Okay, so let's dive in. We have tonight Liz and Amy, and I'm going to have you both introduce yourselves. But if you can, just kind of share, like, who are you? You can tell a little bit about your story if you'd like, and what are you up to now? Let's start with Liz.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Liz. I am located in Washington, D.C. And a little bit about myself is that I got a late diagnosis of ADHD. So something I call myself is ADHD Barbie. No, I say that people with ADHD are able to do so many things. Oh, hi, Coach Lakem. That's one of my business coaches. So thank you for joining in. But yeah, so I call myself ADHD Barbie because I say that I'm not good at just one thing. I'm not good at just one career. I enjoy multiple things and I can become very good at multiple things. So I am in the process of writing poetry, writing children's books, starting a couple of businesses, collaborations, mentoring children with ADHD, and also becoming an ADHD accountability coach.
It's amazing. Awesome. Well, it's so nice to have you on here. And, going from, going from school and going through all of that and now where you are today, it's pretty amazing. Now, Amy, who are you?
Hey, I'm from South Mississippi. I'm actually currently still in college, and how my journey kind of started is I did get an early diagnosis of dyslexia and ADHD, but on my side, they never really wanted to provide accommodations because I was a high achiever, so they could never understand why they needed to provide them. Therefore, when I would get pulled out, it was a lot of misunderstanding between teachers and between different students. Well, if she can get pulled out, why can't I? There was a lot of misunderstanding through my journey of dyslexia and ADHD, but I started to grow my lexile level when I was in the 6th grade. That's how I learned how to read with audiobooks. And flash forwarding to college, and we're thriving to a point, but it was a journey, and we just want to help your kids along that journey.
That's awesome, Amy. Thank you. And I'm going to share a little bit too, because I'm going to be involved in this because I was also bullied growing up through school. So for me, a lot of the bullying happened from 3rd to 6th grade, where 6th grade was kind of that low point of a combination of being bullied by both students and teachers. And whether it's being thrown out of the classroom, being told that you never go to college, being called a sped in school. It's something that just really puts a damper on any type of confidence you have. So, I'm looking forward to, I've not really talked about this like as an actual standalone session. So I am looking forward to seeing what's going to come up from this conversation. So I'm just going to kind of start by just addressing a little bit about bullying and why it's important for us to address bullying amongst kids and people with learning differences. So do any of you have anything to say on that? Like, what's the importance of addressing this, right? Like, why talk about it now?
So I can go first. It is very important to talk about it now because learning differences don't appear the same in every child. So sometimes it does go undiagnosed, and children are often labeled as misbehaved, or they're labeled as the problem child, and it's just because they're wired differently. Children with ADHD, you call them a problem child, but it's because they can't sit still. They need to be constantly stimulated, and things that bore them won't interest them, especially in school. So if things that bore them can't catch their attention, they're not going to do their best. But if they're interested in a subject, they're going to do very well. They're going to excel. And we just need to show that not everyone thinks the same, not everyone learns the same, and just bring awareness to the fact that everyone thinks differently, and especially how important it is to kind of adjust to neurodivergent children.
Amy?
Yes,
You got
Dr.
it?
Benji. Sorry.
No, you're good.
One of the main reasons why I truly believe that that bullying and kids with learning disabilities really needs to be addressed early is personally myself. So I have extreme imposter syndrome, truly, and that comes from being bullied, because I was literally told in the classroom as a child, like, hey, you shouldn't be in a gifted program if you can't read, just because those two things shouldn't have been interchangeable. So if we don't address this now, it will follow them later. So we need to stop the process now and be able to address it and say, like, hey, we can talk about this. This is a topic that we can talk over and communicate over. It's not something to be ashamed of, because a lot of people are bullied. We just have to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to preface, because we're about to get deep for a minute. And for our parents watching this, I really encourage you, if you have any questions about any experiences that you're facing at home with your children, or maybe something that happened in your past, this is a moment of where we're all kind of in this together right now. Being bullied, you often feel alone. So, if you have a question, I almost guarantee you someone else has the same question. Okay. So this is just a moment that we're all just going to kind of open up a little bit. So again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. So can we just kind of go back a little bit in time? What was it like? Now, Amy, I want to start with you. You were telling me a little bit about, why you were bullied. What were those feelings that came up during those moments? Did you feel alone? Did you feel like that there was no one there to help you, or did you have support?
I felt absolutely cornered in the situation itself, and I never respond well when I feel cornered. I feel like any child gets into a fight or flight response, and mine was always flight as a child. It was not, I'm gonna fight. It was always, I'm gonna fight. But as a child, you can't just run out of the room, so therefore you're stuck. Yeah. So I always felt alone in the situation. I did have a great support system, and my mom at home. My mom at school with me, sadly. So when the problem did come back home with me, we were able to talk through, and we were able to address it, and she was able to help me through the fact of, like, hey, that's not true. But in this situation at school, I felt very alone. I'll never forget when the teacher told me, hey, you shouldn't be in this class if you can't read. All the kids around me were just like
you were told, teacher called you out like that?
Yeah.
Oh my! How old? May I ask how old did you say you were? What grade?
I was in the 5th grade. So what would that be, like
Oh my
11?
God.
So that, yeah, it was a gifted program, and there's a big I'm not saying that word right. Anyway, a big misconception around the fact that like dyslexic kids can't be in gifted programs, and these are like what you would say the high IQ classes, however different school districts may label them. But what my teacher didn't understand is just because my brain can solve puzzles very well doesn't mean I couldn't be in there just because I can't read. I mean, I would have readers in my classroom and I could do my work fine when I would have words pointed out to me. But if my readers couldn't help me, therefore the work isn't going to get done because I can't do the work. I couldn't read it. That doesn't mean that my brain isn't processing to the same level as every single kid in that class. That just meant that I needed the same accommodations in that class as I did in my regular classes, and they didn't want to provide those. Yeah.
Right. Was that something where you had, when it came to your accommodations, were you embarrassed about them at any point, or?
Yeah. So at this point, 5th grade Amy, they always, when you had a reader in my classes at least, they would always pick like a confidant for you, and it would be like one of your friends. But in an instant of like, say you got stuck with someone that you didn't like, I would probably have never asked them for a word to read, to be completely honest. Be like, oh, you're the smartest kid in the class. I'm not going to bother you. We're not going to talk. We're not going to communicate with this. It wouldn't have happened the same. So, but no, I always felt ashamed of my accommodations. One of my special education teachers, for instance, would always pull, you're supposed to do it discreetly. I don't know if the parents know this, but most of the time you are supposed to communicate with the student a little discreetly to save them the embarrassment of the age, because our brains are developing. Most of the time we don't really understand why. Maybe you're getting pulled out. A lot of things are still unknown. You're still developing to who you are. So they try to save your dignity and you as much as they can. So it's like, okay, you're going to leave the class at such and such time. This teacher did not do it that way. Everybody knew who the teachers were in my school district that were, well, in ours it was just called like special education or like inclusion. It wasn't called inclusion, yeah, at my school. So they knew who the teachers were. So it's like, oh, she's getting pulled out into the special class.
Yeah,
like,
I got.
that's what's up. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. I also got that also. And for parents, I mean, if you, I am curious if you have any kids, any of your kids that struggle with that confidence with just their accommodations, you know, and getting pulled out of class and this like back and forth of just like kind of wanting to be normal, but then like there's all the other kids. So I'm curious about that one. Now, Amy, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. Now, for Liz, you said that you found out late, right? You were like recently done.
Yeah.
So that must have meant like, I mean, you had a whole upbringing through school of like, what was that like? I mean, like what happened for you, and when was the bullying taking place?
It was rough. When I was very good at all of my artistic classes, but I would struggle through any classes, like math or history, anything that bored me, and I wouldn't do too well. And I would get bullied pretty much for sometimes just forgetting words, because the way that my brain works, the words process a lot faster than I can actually say them. So sometimes I'll just say, oh, we're just free. So it kind of made me scared of public speaking. I remember when I was in college, I actually took a speech and communication class because I wanted to practice um, public speaking. And the teacher would, anytime that you would say she would say and the class would join in, so just to kind of end that habit. And it made me very scared to even do public speaking again. So I've avoided things like lives or so this is something big for me. I take it as like a big step. But yeah,
Wow.
growing up, I just knew I was different. I thought differently, and that also made its way into my work life. You know, when the way our brains work, we think differently, and this leads back to school. Is that I can get the same correct answer, but if my work is different, it's a wrong answer. So I would always say, why does it matter? I got the right answer. I just did the work a little differently. So it was like Amy said, teachers really were a bully, or sorry, teachers were bullies because they just don't understand that people work differently. People think differently. If you don't do it the exact way that they're teaching you, then it's wrong. And I also got shamed when I would answer questions wrong, or I would get called on when I didn't know the answer, and that was the worst because I wasn't prepared. And it just made me scared of ever raising my hand, ever speaking up, ever advocating for myself. Um, so if I didn't finish writing the notes before the teacher erased the board, oh well, like I guess I'm just not going to say anything. So that really embedded itself into me and into my adult life.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. This is the dynamics of all of your shares. I mean, we cover such a wide range. And it kind of, before I go into my follow-up question on this, I just want to share with our parents and just for those watching that 10 to 15% of children struggle with chronic peer-to-peer difficulties. Okay. And a lot of kids and students with hidden disabilities like ADHD, dyslexia, high functioning autism fall in that category. So everyone's like, oh, well, let's try to find them another peer or another a mentor, maybe in their similar age, right? Like at the end of the day, a lot of these kids, it's a language barrier, so this kind of is leading to my next question here is, can you highlight some unique challenges that kids with learning differences may face as compared to others as it relates to bullying? Like, is it mostly in the classroom, on the playground? What were your experiences?
I can go first. Or sorry.
I never know who's going to speak first. I always give it
That's
up
always
like immediately.
It's like the stare down battle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
like an
I'll go
old
this
Western
time.
standoff.
You go next time. Okay, so I felt like with learning disabilities, it was almost like an unspoken language. Now, this gets sound a little crazy, but it was always like the really soft, like side comments, like "You didn't get that word right." And it's like a first grade level word, and it's like really softly whispered in the back of the classroom, or like, "Ooh, when you leave to go take said test," and it's like all these whisperings are now happening in the room that weren't happening originally. And it's like those kind of bullying, you have to realize since it's not direct, it's going to plant those seeds in your head of like, oh, okay, what'd they say? What is that? Is that about me? Because it's a lot of unknown. I felt like for me, because it was always like halfway behind my back, not all the way, only half, if that makes any sense. So personally, that's how it kind of happened for me. Because on the playground, like you said, Jake, it's just like, oh, you're kind of like even again. But then you come into the problem about, okay, do you have friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I did not always have friends. That was the thing. It's like, okay, my one girl, that's my ride or die. We are glued together on the playground, man. But that was pretty much about how it was for me. What about you, Liz?
So for me, I never I didn't get as much bullying, I would say, from the students, other than, like you said, little side comments. I remember when we would do popcorn reading, or when everybody had to read a paragraph. The way I did it was that I would just prepare ahead of time and reread my paragraph. So by the time they got to me, I'm lost. And they're saying, "Are you not paying attention?" It said, and then I would say, "Yes, I am paying attention," but I had to reread my paragraph because I had to mentally prepare myself for when it was my turn. And people just don't understand that. And so for me, I also, with the bullying, I was really awkward when it came to making friends. I still think sometimes I can be a little awkward, but it just, sometimes we just can't read certain cues, and or the oversharing that gets me every single time. I think that I'm connecting to someone, and by the time that I finish, and their face is just like, I said, I really shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, I opened Pandora's box.
By the way,
This has always been me as a kid.
By the way, you want to know a trick that someone told me about that was, if you are in a conversation with someone and you look at their feet, if their feet are pointing towards you, they're interested in talking. If they're pointed away, that means that they're done. They're ready to move on. So just keep that in mind. I mean, that's mostly goes a lot with adults. I'm, probably is a natural human behavior with kids too, but just something to just kind of keep in mind. So yeah, I mean, like for me, it was, I could not decipher the difference between sarcasm, like what, especially sarcasm, and even till this day, that has to do with constructive feedback. Like I would take it so seriously because I was always corrected growing up. I developed a stutter in school also because I was always corrected and interrupted, that I just would stop in the middle of my sentences. So, it really impacted a lot more of just not just my confidence, but also academically. Did your bullying impact you guys academically too?
Yes, I feel like it impacted me academically because it it affects you emotionally, it affects you mentally. You don't feel smart enough. I would feel because my bullying also came from my family. You also get
Okay.
bullying from your family. I got bullied from by my parents because to them they don't understand why I can't get the question right. If I would ask my dad to help me with my homework and I couldn't understand the question, they think that reading the question louder, more aggressively would make you understand it. And I said, no, I don't understand. So if I didn't get the questions right, he would just get frustrated and rip up my homework and throw it away. So that just became a thing where my parents would tell me, oh, you're not really good at anything, you're not very smart. And, when you don't have a support system at home,
Yeah.
then you don't, you can't
Oh,
really find one
so I
outside.
want to get into this for a sec because for our parents, I know we were talking a lot about what happened in the past, but I want to kind of shift our conversation toward how can we move forward, right? So we have our parents watching, okay, and maybe they have kids who are struggling right now with their confidence, okay. So Liz, you were talking about it also was at home and your parents may not have understood, or you can have, a parent yelling from across the house 5 times and they think that you've been ignoring them, when in reality, they've just been in hyper focus mode and they didn't hear you. Right. So if you were to go back in time, what advice would you give? Like what would you want to tell your parents, or to create a more supportive environment? We're going to start at home and then we're going to shift to the school. Okay. And for our audience, if you do have any specific questions, because now we're going to get into some strategies and feedback and suggestions. So if you do have any questions on how to either navigate it, or if you are getting frustrated or maybe not understanding something that's going on with your child, like this is like a completely open opportunity for you to ask, and we can dive in on that for you. Okay. So let's just kind of get into that. What kind of advice would you want to share to create a more supportive environment for kids with learning disabilities? Let's go with
So,
Liz. Yeah, go first.
sorry. So I
Yeah.
would just tell parents to create a safe space. If you create a safe space for your child, they will feel comfortable with coming to tell you things. And I didn't have that growing up. I would just bottle everything up. And also just motivate them to advocate for themselves, speak up for themselves, and to, if you don't understand that they think differently, or if you don't know that they're diagnosed, maybe just get them to speak with someone. Maybe there's something that you don't understand, and if they do happen to be neurodivergent and they just think differently, just create small accommodations to help them and remind them that their learning differences is their other superpowers.
Gotcha. So one thing that I would say is that most kids with learning disabilities have a lot of homework when they come home. Give They need to have at least one thing that they enjoy and that they are amazing at. That comes very naturally to them because their schoolwork most likely does not. So as the parent, you by you providing that for them, I don't know what it might be for your kid. It's normally different for every kid. But by doing that, you're saying, okay, I see that school might not be your strongest suit, but maybe karate is. Maybe your
Mhm.
little league team is. Maybe dance classes. Maybe just having an hour when you get right home from school and you're already drained to draw for an hour. Maybe that's your talent. You need to find that one thing for your kid because it is going to be crucial in this time for them of school, 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 school. Okay, wait, more school. Have homework for 5 hours now that you're home. Congrats, you're dyslexic. You don't want to create that environment for your kid. So the best thing I think for a parent that could do is to promote, you do have dyslexia, you have ADHD, so it may take you more time on different things at the home. And I want to understand that. I want to give you the time to do it, but I also want you to thrive in your ability that you can do at such as whatever outlet that may be for them. And that's, I don't know, it's just another level of understanding. I feel like first you have to understand like the basic level of where Liz is, and then it's like, okay, I've comprehended that. Okay, now I really want to put into my kid, and then you go to that level, if that makes sense.
That absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I want to just also preface that, you know, we have to start to accept that no mind is the same. Okay. No mind is the same, no matter what label you're whatever, no matter what thing you have. Right. So to be able to bring that at home, and whatever maybe you were raised by, right? So our parents were raised a certain way, right? And then we are being raised also. So to recognize that no mind is the same, and that maybe one child may need more attention in a certain area than another one. You know what I mean? And Amy and Liz both. But I really, really liked what you were saying around finding that thing. Okay. Because that thing is where you can end up finding that confidence when everything else doesn't seem to feel like it's working. Did you all have that thing for you growing up?
It took me a very long time to find my thing, actually. So
What is your thing?
So my thing eventually it became like different sports.
Mm-hmm.
It actually, I didn't find my thing literally until like senior year of high school, and it was cross country, because cross country was the only thing that it didn't matter if you had the tumbling lessons when you were little for cheerleading. It didn't matter if you had played soccer as a kid. All you had to do was put in the work to run. So personally, because I didn't have the other backgrounds for some of the other things I did do, because in junior high I did do cheer and I loved it, but I did not have the tumble skills and the dump skills to get onto the high school cheer team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that, it's something that we at Superpower Mentors is something that we tell our parents all the time. And, we always advise parents that if you have a child with, ADHD or dyslexia, I don't necessarily advise the team sport, although like some kids love it. When you do an activity that you are in control of, right? Like cross country or swimming or rock climbing or whatever, that you could be the worst runner on the team and still get love. But if you're the worst soccer player on the team, no one wants you on their team. Okay. So we can preemptively, right? Yeah. Like we can be proactive and get our kids in sports of where that's not going to happen, right? And it's not a matter of, going the easy route. You have to realize that if you have a child with ADHD, they're going to thrive anyway doing something that they're in control of. So put them in that sport and let them run. You got one job, cross the finish line. It's very simple.
Can I speak on that a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I did love soccer. I started out with soccer, but then I went into cross country. I did both. But I was not as good at soccer because it was so much going on the field. So there were so many different things happening, which I'm also hearing impaired, so like that kind of had something to do with it. Like I didn't really hear my teammates all that much sometimes. But like sometimes I would be in like Amy Landia, and there goes the ball. I'm like, oh, sorry coach, sorry team. So next time. So like, don't put your kid on the sport that like, if you see them struggling and now they want to put in the work to get better, that's great. That's going to build their personality, get some grit in there, but only if they want to improve it. Don't like, you're going to do it because you're going to do it. That's going to hurt them more mentally. I'm sorry to break your heart.
Right.
Okay, I'm done now.
No, I did the same way. Basketball. It was the same thing with basketball. My dad played in college. I wanted to be like dad. I thought I was pretty good. But I get depressed every single season during like January, February, and I loved it. So now that's a perfect example of you can do something that you love and still not get that type of like confidence boost that something else may. So yeah. Liz, you have anything you want to speak on that?
Yes. So I actually wasn't really allowed to join anything growing up, but one thing I noticed that I was always very interested in was being hands-on. I was always very creative, very artistic. So I was always doing something in my room, whether it was painting, whether it was sketching, whether it was just crafting. And I actually recently saw that I've been getting back into it and just naturally start sketching and just doing little things. So that's just something that's always I've always been interested in. I really, really wanted to join theater growing up. I was, and I had prepared when I was in high school. I prepared an audition for the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts, and the day of my audition, my mom said, "You're not going to that school. You're not going to be an actress. You're not going to do that, and I'm not going to take you." So the things I was always interested in, my parents would always shut down. And now that I'm an adult, I say, I'm an adult. I can literally do whatever I want. And I've just been on this journey of finding my inner child and doing the things that I was naturally good at.
Yeah. There's something about, I think, what gives people with learning differences, you know, a lot of, if you look at statistics, like a lot of us either become super successful, right? And there's also a little bit of in between, or we end up going down the other way, right? But if you look at it, like we've gone through a lot growing up, you know, and we have an art, like it's like an armor to us. And for all of, you know, you kids out there that's watching this, you're not alone, you know? Like, you know, like this is, we've all been through it. And it's the thing that those naysayers that kind of gives us that flame. You know what I mean? So, and I want to kind of shift the convo a little bit to the kids. What, you know, for our kids watching, you know, what do you have to say to them about bullying? Amy.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Please just call one of us.
All right.
Okay. What I would personally have to say is like, don't let them win. I don't know. For me, it was all about not letting them win. Because at the end of the day, no matter if you do come home and bawl your eyes out to your mom, and while your siblings are like, what happened to her? Don't let them win when you go back the next day to school. It's going to hurt when you see the teacher that you have to deal with for the year, or the student that's going to sit by you or behind you for the rest of the year. But don't let them win, because if you let them win at the end of the day, what just happened? They won. And you build more of yourself if you don't let them win, because dyslexic kids and ADHD kids, with kids that have learning disabilities, we are proven to have more grit than most other people. And this is just going to test your grit, sadly. It's going to be tested multiple times over. But at the end of the day, you're tough enough to rise from it, because most of you have already probably gone through it at least one time. And you're still here. So you've already conquered it once. But guess what? You're good at something they're not good at also. So just like, I'm just saying, like at the end of the day, just like, oh, well, I'm a great drawer. You know, I can score that touchdown. I'm just saying, anyway. You're good at something that they aren't. But anyway, Liz.
Yeah, Liz. Amy, I'm like pumped right now.
Yeah, I love what Amy said. And I would say, make sure you speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself. Don't hold anything in that's not going to do anything great. If anything, that's going to cause more damage. And if, like Amy said, don't let them win. I actually read a book called The Underdog Advantage, and part of it says that it's by Dean Gracie O.C., and it says that when you're an underdog, you have so much to prove that drives you to do better, to always do your best. So just the people who are bullying you, just always do your best, always show them that they can't affect you. And I read Braden's comment, and he said that his coach was someone that, yeah. So how he said that his coach was someone he knew that he could allow to talk about anything. I think that's great because you have a support system. So if you can't talk to your parents, if you don't feel like you have someone at home that you can talk to, find someone at school, find a trusted adult that you can always reach out to and can be your safe space.
Yeah, yeah. I got nothing else. No. But in all seriousness, I mean, I think both of you are touching upon something that's really important to recognize is this like, don't let them win mindset. And I want to just, touch upon that a little bit because you're right. If you are different, okay, people don't like difference. All right. We're seeing that right now in the state of this world. Okay. People don't like different and they don't like what they don't understand because it's uncomfortable. Okay. Now, listen to me carefully, all you peeps. All right. Like, people don't like what they don't understand because it's uncomfortable and people don't like being uncomfortable. So what are they going to do? They're going to shut it down. They're going to want to. Okay. Maybe, that bully in middle school or high school, maybe they are, a lot of times it's you have some and they don't, right? Maybe it's, who knows? But at the end of the day, it's not you. It's mostly a reflection of the other person. They're taking it out on you, which is not okay, but it's not at you. Okay. It's at themselves. And when you can embrace that, now this is verbal. When it gets physical, that's another conversation. That's a whole other thing, which we can touch upon. But I always say, and at Superpower Mentors, and if you have a pad or notebook next to you, I'd recommend writing this down. It's this affirmation, which is I'm smart, I'm capable, and nothing will hold me back. And you just repeat it to yourself because they will not understand. They won't. Like, you can't expect them to. Just go in assuming they won't. Okay. The only thing that we can change and that we're in control of is ourselves and what comes out of our mouths and how we take it. Something that I wanted to also touch upon in this case is I learned this, I think it was like in 2019 or something. But humans are meaning-making machines, okay? We're meaning-making machines. And if I were to call someone a name, right? If I were to say something really hurtful right now in English, right? And make fun of someone and you speak English, you're going to hear that and put meaning to it. But if I were to say it in a language that you couldn't understand, the same thing, you wouldn't get affected because you'd have no idea what I'm talking about. Right? If someone were to say, you're a sped, loser, stupid head, right? Whatever, right? Like, if they said that in Mandarin, because I can't speak Mandarin, I literally would be like, what? But if they said it in English, I would get all, I mean, I just said that, I was obviously giving an example, but I got triggered from that because I used to be called that, right? So like, we put so much meaning, and these are just words, they're vibrational noises that we just put meaning to. So what do you think about that? Do you have anything to touch upon with that?
I definitely agree. I guess I'll go because I'm waiting on you to call somebody. But I agree. Because I know some people can relate. When I go to get a manicure every now and then, they say people say that they're probably talking about you, but because I don't understand, I don't really care. But for me, I speak English, I speak Spanish, and if I hear someone, a lot of the time people don't know that I can speak Spanish, so they'll say little comments, and I'll turn around and like respond in Spanish, and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't know." So, I agree with you that people are meaning making machines because if you don't understand what someone's saying, you really don't care. You're just hearing noise, but they can be insulting you into you just like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna walk away. I don't know what's going on. So just like you said, words are just words. They don't mean anything until we put meaning to them.
Yeah.
So it's not a funny story, but like the idea of it kind of is. So you heard me say earlier, I'm hearing impaired, right? So I didn't have a hearing aid until I got into the 7th grade. It got bad enough. So people would say things around me, and some of them knew I was hearing impaired. So I'd be like, because like it was bad enough we're conversational level in a classroom. All these kids are talking, I couldn't hear them. So literally, when they would insult me behind my back, I'm like, okay, they're laughing. I know they just insulted me, but I don't know what they said. So it was literally like a different language. Side note, but going through that, you have to realize like when you don't hear the words, they didn't exist. So like when you're walking out the classroom to take your test, sometimes I'm just like, they were laughing at the teacher. They were not laughing at me. It's just like, unless they say it like smack to my face, sometimes I just let it roll off my back personally. Because I'm just like, that bullet isn't worth letting it dip my armor. I was like, it's just not worth it. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to truly hurt me, you're gonna have to say that one to my face that time. Not always, because sometimes I'll like catch a big word. I'm just like, wait a second. But most of the time, if it's just like, but because by the time I was like, oh wait, what do you say? It'd do me more damage to my person personally. But anyway, it'd be multiple bullets at that point. But anyway, so sometimes you just have to let them roll off your back like a little duck and keep on swimming.
Absolutely. And also for parents too, like I want to just mention, if your kid has an IEP or 504, they are protected under the Disability Rights Act. Okay. The school has to accommodate your child if they are getting bullied for their disability. Okay. I'll say that again. If your child has a 504 IEP, okay, you may, and you have to ask your lawyer, okay, if it pertains to your state, but they're protected, and the school has to accommodate if they're getting bullied or discriminated against about their disability. Okay, so seriously keep that in mind also. Now, I'll have a little fun for me. It's been a very heavy conversation, and I do appreciate you both sharing so vulnerably. So really, thank you for coming on here. What is something like really cool about what we have that we can share, so that if there's a bully watching this right now, okay, we can give them some insight as to what we're all about? Amy, go first. Liz went first last time.
Great. Okay. I was always really good at puzzles. So like the common sense puzzles that like all the other kids are like, I'm just like, they didn't figure it out already? It did not always happen. But like there were multiple occasions where I'm just like, and then like I would try to say it. I'm just like, excuse me. It's the answer. So like, I'm just saying, common sense questions and puzzles, some of us are like, we got the answer before you guys did like 5 minutes ago. Sometimes. Definitely not all the time. Please don't call me out in physics.
I think, yeah, hopefully your professor's not watching this. Okay. What do you think, Liz?
I say that the neurodiverse community is just so intriguing. When we hyper focus. Like nobody can bother me. I even forget to drink water. I have to tell people that there can be water right in my face and I will forget to drink it. People just don't believe me when I say I just forget to drink water. It doesn't matter. But there's things that we can do that other people can't. I write books in like 15, 20 minutes because I'm in the process of writing children's books. So a lot of my books that I've written, it's just the words visualized in my head. I sat down on my computer, put my lo-fi beats on, hyper focus, and in 15 minutes I have a book. So nice. I think we're pretty amazing people, and we're very innovative thinkers. There's a lot of things that when I figure things out in a different way, or somebody will see a tool and then I will fix it for something else. Hey, Mads.
Mads is not going to make it. Liz, finish what you're saying, and I'll introduce Mads.
Yeah, so I was just saying that we just think differently. Excuse me. We just think differently. So just ask questions. You would be intrigued by the way that our brains work.
Big time. So everyone, surprise appearance. Mads has entered the house. So Mads is in Norway. So we had to wake him up for this, and It's okay. He's a little late, and that's fine. It's fine. He's just going to make a quick appearance. But Mads, really quick, like, you're out in Norway, but also like it's a global thing, right? So, growing up with learning difference, like being a subject of being bullied and being a mentor for kids who may have been struggling with bullying, what do you have to say on this conversation around bullying and kids with dyslexia and ADHD? And yeah, go ahead.
I have many things to say. Firstly, I think I don't know what you've been talking about.
Just go in for it, bro. Go into it.
But I suggest teach your kids how to defend themselves. I think it's very underrated. I think it's many are in the many think, oh, you shouldn't fight back. Of course, ideally you wouldn't, but in some cases you have to. So teach your kids how to defend themselves. If that is to take them to karate or whatever, do it, because sometimes you really have to stand up for yourself.
By the way, so you just touched on it. We were talking about like words and bullying with words, and we were gonna get into physical stuff.
Good.
Go ahead, continue.
But in that case, I have another perspective. Teachers, bullying from teachers, and written words bullying from teachers on tests, for example. In my case, I got tests back where they said like, yeah, we need janitors as well. Good luck. That was the answer to my whole test. Like, we need janitors, and nothing wrong with janitors, but being told by the teacher that you are not good enough, and I think you will be having only this job going forward, is not good. Mm-hmm. It's not good at all.
So Mads, and I want to reopen this conversation back up because Mads just brought in a whole new dynamic, and like I think this is going to be like really cool. And by the way, we've been having a great conversation. We missed you, so glad you made it on. But what can parents do? Okay, if they know that there's a teacher that is bullying their kid, what can a parent do?
Well, firstly, you need to establish or know that you have a good enough relationship with your child, that the child will be open with you. And I think that, talking from an experience from myself, but also my mentees and people I worked in general, many doesn't have that relationship with their children, which where we comes in, right? We can be the middleman.
This is where
but if you can't communicate with your child, you have going to take some time to get that relationship going, because your kid most likely won't tell you because you're not listening. You haven't been listening for years, or you haven't been listening in the right way that I need, right? And as I'm sure you guys have talked about already, you get beaten down over time, and then you get more and more defensive of how you feel. And then you might not want to share anything with anyone because it's painful. You tried in some way, and you don't have the power to do it anymore. So time, patience, us.
Can I add a little side note to what
Go
he
in,
said?
Liz. Get into it.
Because what I noticed is that all of us had one thing in common where we brought up that teachers were our bullies, and my parents would not believe me when like I would fail classes, and I would tell them my teacher really doesn't like me, and they would say, really, they're gonna single you out of everybody? What makes you so special? So no, teachers really can be bullies. And if your child tells you that they're struggling with a teacher, listen to them, pay attention, because they wouldn't just come out with that out of nowhere.
100%. I want to add another one to that one, because I've seen many individuals with learning differences think that they are being bullied, but they are not. there's a different aspect of all of this, because they react in a negative way because they think like, oh, you gave me a bad grade, or you said this thing, but they themselves doesn't understand that that individual didn't mean any mean things about that, but they believed, because they are vulnerable, because they're trying so hard to the point where they take anything as insults. Go on, Amy.
I can give an example for you, actually. Okay, great. This is what I think mad means. Okay, when I was in the 8th grade of school, my teacher was like, don't take your test with accommodations. And that sent off all kind of fire alarms in my head. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, panicking went off. So I thought she was coming out for me as a person. But I will forever thank her, because after that year, because how we had it set up is during the class, this took a lot of personal development from me. During the class, if I had a word or two I needed, I would get up from my seat, go to her desk, and she would read it. And I'd go and sit back down, and I'd continue taking my test. Great. Okay. So the first test comes in, and I made a pretty good grade. Really. And she looked at it, and she circled it. She said, you did that. You did that. And you did it in here. And that set me up later to be able to do more things independently. But I would never have done that if she didn't push me. But at the time, I was furious.
Exactly.
I was furious. I thought she was coming after me as a dyslexic person, and I was infuriated. But looking back, I understand. But I thought that was a good example. Okay, back to
No,
stop.
it was a great example, and I have a similar example from a student, because when I went to, do you call it high school? Do you call it college? What do you call after primary school in America?
College.
It's a college. Okay, I went to college.
University, yeah.
That's later, though. Either way.
Does he mean
After
middle school? I
after
think he
primary
means
school.
middle school.
Middle school is probably the thing I'm looking for. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh,
You're
I'm way
welcome.
off. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I was very too old.
Sorry. Yeah.
In middle school, I had basically no self-esteem whatsoever. I was so afraid of what other people would think about me, because I didn't have any. And this one girl, she really tried to help me, but I was used to people behaving like that, trying to put me down and trying to essentially bully me slowly. So my reaction to her trying to help me was, this woman is scary. I need to get away from this person. And it took me 3 years to understand that she was kind. So, because I was so broken from all the bullying I experienced in primary school, so I thought everyone in any terms of kindness was mean. And especially because she asked me, are you okay? And in places like gymnastics, where you would think that, why would this show up? Why would you ask me if I am okay in gymnastic? Apparently I was not, and I wasn't. But why was it so visible? That really scared me. And I wanted to hide so much.
Yeah, to be able to, like, the psychological impact that it has is
Massive.
like, it really impacts it. I mean, like, because everyone's talking about, I went to a few literacy conferences, okay? And we're all talking about helping dyslexics and kids with learning differences learn how to read better, and improving the America's literacy rates in our country. But it's very difficult to teach someone how to read when they've been bullied profusely about it. Forced to read out loud in class, this little reading groups, not being able to do it properly, and like get made fun of, or, you can't. It turns into a trigger, right? How can we break that stigma? Okay, like, how can parents feel armed and prepared to walk into that IEP room, or walk into a PPT meeting, or meet with that teacher that is bullying their kid during parent-teacher conferences? Like, what can a parent say, right, to that teacher? Amy.
Okay, my mom did that.
Yeah.
My mom did that. She literally told them, Do you know my kid? What do you know about them? And to this day, I'm just like, you told them what? And they had no answer. That's the whole point. They had no answer. Because at the end of the day, you know what the teacher knows about your kid? They know a reading level. They know a math score. They do not know your kid unless they took the time to sit down and learn about your kid. And if they did that, this would have never been a problem. Because if a teacher's bullying your kid, they don't understand your kid. So therefore, they don't know your kid. So then it's like, okay, let me tell you about my kid. My kid is the one that loves to watch TV after she gets home from school because you've bullied her all day. My kid is the youngest of 4 siblings. That all had dyslexia. My kid is brilliantly, but you just don't see it. She's in this class for a reason. So you just keep you go into it and you're like, I'm going to reaffirm my kid. But then it goes to the parent. You have to know your kid, because you cannot go in there and have nothing to say. You can't be in the same situation as the teacher. So then you have to go in there. I hope you have a good relationship with your kid. I'm sorry if I'm pressing a pressure point right now on somebody.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
so finish up your thought. Yeah.
You cannot go into that meeting and not know what you're about to advocate for, because at the age that these kids are at, you're their advocate, to be quite frank. Kids cannot even go into their IEP meetings. I think for me, it was like the 6th grade, 7th grade. That was like 14 to 13. You basically literally have 10 years of advocating. I'm sorry, you have to learn how to be their advocate for them,
Right.
because they can't do it yet.
There are two ways that you can better know your kid. All right. One is, if you're a Superpower Mentors family, or if your kid has a mentor, ask their mentor. Say like, what do I do? Right. That's number one. Right. Or if you have a coach or whatever in their corner, but ask someone else. But also, when was the last time that you did something that was in their outlet? Right. Maybe it was playing video games, or maybe it was kicking the soccer ball, but get to know your child through their outlets. Okay. Now let's keep going. What do you think about that, Mads?
I want to add to that, because I see this often with parents or people in general. Make sure that you see the kid not the way that you have. Don't see the kid in your head. See your kid as your kid, not the vision that you want your kid to be. There's many who fail at that, because there will never be the version of them that you have in your head. Another thing I want to say, related to what Amy said, which I think was brilliantly well done. But another thing that I say a lot, because I do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of public speaking, where I often say to parents, it's okay that you swap school or swap or the child swap classes, because it's the last year of that school. Switch. 1 year can change the whole life of that kid. And school is bingo. You can go into a great school, can get a bad teacher. You can go to a bad school, get a good teacher. But it's worth changing until your kid you can see them. You see when they start having a good time in school. It's okay to change the place you are in.
Like removing yourself from that environment.
Yeah.
It's
also because sometimes you can tell the teachers so many times that people are mean. They get back at you in some sort of way. Remove your kid from it. It could be okay. I recommend that you tell and communicate and take it up to the highest part of the school. Yeah, that you can. But sometimes removing yourself from the situation is the best.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's not possible, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes it's not possible. So the way that we could remove it, and this is for our parents, again, we're drilling this in. This is a universal thing that everyone is saying, okay? So like press save, you got to remember this part, okay? You have to know your kid. You have to. Get in their outlets. Get to know them, okay? Because you're what they got, right? And ask their mentor, talk to their mentor, right? Because their mentor knows them in ways that's beyond probably most professionals, because their mentor has been there also. All right. So that's huge. I do want to also mention that for anyone that's watching this that is interested in our mentorship program for kids with learning differences, we're going to be waiving the first month off for you upon signing up. So if you're interested, just shoot me a message and we'll get you all set up with that. So I guess like because we were going to end a little bit earlier before, but does anyone have anything like specific that you'd like to bring up? And if there's any parents who have questions, like please go ahead and you can go ahead and ask it. This is a great opportunity to hear from people that have lived it, that have the same learning differences that your children have. So it's a really great opportunity. We're hanging out right now. We're all in this. So Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, well, since we have time, I want to share a story from, I think, a very, very important story from my experience. May I? So, as I said, middle school was a big change for me. I was sat next to this one person, and he said to me, or a classmate of mine, he said to me, "Mads, you can't let these people bully you like that. They were doing the normal bullying, like verbally, and then not fighting me, but they were kind of all up in my face, right?" And I said to him, "Oh, they will stop eventually. I just gonna stand there and wait. They will stop." And he looked at me and said, "Mads, you're not getting it. You're not getting it at all. Mads, you know what I will do? I will hit you here once a day, in between the muscles here, once a day, until you tell me to stop." Guess how long it took me to tell him to stop? What do you think?
I can't even tell you. I don't know.
Come on, give me something. How long?
Like a month? Did it take like a month?
A month.
I was going longer. I was going longer. I was going to go 3 months.
And I was purple. I was yellow, and I just told him, "Stop is enough." I was never bullied again in my life after that day, because that changed my mindset. And he said to me, "Now you get it. Now you get it. Now you're standing up for yourself." And just because I had the mentality, and this is underrated, and people think, "Oh, but that's not enough." Yes, it is. If you believe that no one can fuck with you, sorry to say, no one can screw with you, honestly, truly believe not enough is enough. This is it. You can't do this to me anymore. Inwards changes outwards. And from that day, no one even looked at me and bullied me again. Because I didn't dare to stand up for myself. I thought that if I just waited, it would disappear. But I had done this for 8 years and nothing happened. But I still thought they would give up eventually. But I also had the mindset of allowing them to take me down, just standing there, because it will stop eventually. It didn't. That's why I said in the beginning as well, you need to believe that you can defend yourself, that you are strong enough to say, you can't screw with me.
Yeah. By the way, that is something that for our parents, like, absolutely sign your kid up for self-defense, karate. And now we're not promoting violence. I want to preface, this is not about, Amy's laughing. This is not about violence. Okay. This is about giving your child a sense of confidence in themselves, right? That, you know what, like, they know it's not about promoting it. It's not about being physical. If your child is being physically, like I said, talk to your local disability rights attorney, because if your child is they are protected under 504 IEP and the ADA, American Disabilities Act. The institution has to accommodate So seriously, please do that for them. But yeah, 100%, I agree. Mads, thank you for sharing that.
I also have you guys talked about the differences between boys and girls?
Not
No.
yet.
I think that's important to mention as well.
Before you do that, I just want to mention, because Braden mentioned something else here and I wanted to bring it up. That's another big thing, is saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right? I did that.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
Do not apologize for being who you are. Braden, thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay. So
sorry, just adding to what Braden said. I remember when I interviewed with you and I told you, I'm sorry, like I get fidgety, I do this, you do that, and you said, look, this is who you are. This is exactly why I'm interviewing with you. Don't ever apologize for who you are. So that has stuck with me mentally, where it said, wow, we really do just always apologize for things because we get embarrassed. We know that it's out of the norm. And we just apologize for every little thing that we can do that makes people uncomfortable. But in reality, we're not responsible for how people feel around us. We're just responsible for ourselves, focusing on ourselves, advocating for ourselves, and taking care of ourselves. As long as we're not hurting anybody, if you feel uncomfortable around me, then that's something that you probably have to look into. But a lot of neurodivergent children spend most of their lives masking because of that. And up to this day, I'm still taking off the mask. Like, I've been sitting still trying not to fidget. And I said, wait, I can move around.
Are you kidding me? I've been fidgeting.
I literally.
Everyone's got it. Everyone's got it.
But that's ingrained in my head, where it's like when you're interviewing or when you're doing something serious, you can't move. And being in school, I would always get in trouble for always bouncing my leg or tapping my foot or tapping my pencil, things like that. So thank you, Braden. Don't apologize for who you are, how you, when you're doing stimming or anything like that, just know you're regulating yourself, because that's all we're doing, is just regulating ourselves.
Yep.
Amy wanted to say something earlier as well.
Wait, which time? wait. Okay, I want to say two things real fast. Okay, the reason why I laughed earlier when Jake was like, Amy's laughing. Okay, because when signing your kids up for karate and stuff, I used to keep a pair of running spikes in my car. Running spikes are just like running shoes you run on a track with. You're like short distance. And like when I would have a really bad day in high school, I kid you not, I would take them out of my car and like I tell my mom, like, I'm going running. And she would know, like, I was about to be running around the track, and because that was my anger outlet. Because sometimes you can't confront the bully. Because I have had instances where I was able to confront them. But when you're about to be stuck with that same person for maybe 4 years of high school, you can't really do it if it's not something over the top. So that's why I laughed, because I was like, oh, I have my versions of karate. Anyway, but what they were saying about I'm sorry, I do that so much. Literally, I'll have a conversation with someone and like literally 5 times within the same sentence. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Oh, I have a question in class. Oh my bad, I interrupted. Like, sorry, my bad. Like, literally, I'm sorry, the vocabulary, like, it's ingrained into like my frontal lobe in my brain. So we get it.
Yeah.
I want to say some response to, or not a continuation of what Liz said earlier as well. We are our own biggest bully, and acknowledging where these voices comes from, because sometimes we have voices in your head that comes from a teacher, parent, other students, whoever, and they're played on repeat in your head. And it's important for us to get to the point where we acknowledge, wait, this is not me. This is blah, blah, blah. Do I need to react in this sense, saying sorry? Because I'm not sorry in this situation, or I shouldn't be. I just want to be me. And acknowledging that, I recommend to the parents as well, encourage the child to write down sorry, I just woke up. or
Mads is the real one, by the way.
Write or draw their feelings, because you need to express it and acknowledge, oh wow, okay. If you are a parent and see the child draw or write this, okay, then you can talk about it. It gives you material to connect with your child and talk about all these different things. But unless you give them the room to express this, it will be difficult for you to identify it. And if they're very young, they will draw everything. It's such detail. You just need to ask them, and it will tell you the whole story. And it's obviously that this scribble is this and this, even though it doesn't look like anything. But for them, it's everything. So allow them to express in some sort of way. And if they're a little bit older, make them aware that these things could happen again. When does it happen? Is this a reoccurring thing when you go to school, or is it a reoccurring thing when you are at soccer? Or where does it happen? Where does it come up? And making us aware of our thought patterns. And when we bully ourselves, it's massive. A thing that I realized, and I did this from the age of 11, was I'm not in a good space. I need to do something about myself. So I started talking to myself in the mirror, saying nice things to myself, because no one told me nice things. Okay, yeah, my parents did, but I couldn't take it in, because we are so used to getting all the bad things told to us. We need to have some good things. So I actively coached myself through the mirror every day, saying nice things, saying like, "Oh, I like your socks. I like your hair. I like good luck on your test." And that's okay. We should encourage to help ourselves as well.
Yeah.
I think it's very slapped on.
Yeah. Something that I used to do is I would write sticky notes and I put them all over the place. I'll be like, like, you're awesome. Or, I'm like, we said this affirmation earlier. I'm smart. I'm capable, and nothing will hold me back. You know what I mean? Like, we can say these things. So, so listen, I know that we are way over our time here, but this was fun. Like, we're gonna do this again. And for any parents watching that are still on here, if you have any ideas or feedback on different topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to me, and we'll make sure that we cover those, because I think there's nothing more important and powerful. There's all these professionals talking about stuff from and that's great, but there's nothing better than personal experience, right? Okay, so with that being said, I don't know if you can hear the fire alarm. I am in New York, so there's no such thing as quiet here. So can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Stand by. And okay, we're back. Okay. So, yeah. So I think too that for all of us, having to overcome this is huge. And we did need our parents' support. And we needed the support of a team. Okay. If your kid doesn't have a mentor, get them a mentor, whether it's with us or anywhere else. A mentor has been scientific. It's been proven. Like, there's so much data out there on the impact that mentorship has on kids who are struggling, or even just kids who aren't, that just can help them grow. Get them a mentor, right? Spend time in their outlet so you can understand, so you as a parent can best advocate for your child. It's the thing that we all wish that we had, or if we had it from our parents, it's just someone else that can understand from us. And that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Any final words from all of you? I would love just to hear any final thoughts, any words of wisdom you can share with the parents or even with the kids. Maybe just to the kids. Let's talk to our kiddies. Yeah, go ahead.
So Denise's comment said, focus on your strengths. Just figure out what you're good at. Figure out what makes you happy, what naturally makes you happy. Because as a kid, you might think it's just like a hobby, but just know that a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of the celebrities, a lot of the people that you see on TV, they have learning differences, and that's what makes them unique. That's what makes them get to where they are. A lot of entrepreneurs think out of the box. So just because you think differently doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Just find people who understand you. We understand you.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so there's nothing wrong with you. Love yourself and love your brain, because honestly, our learning differences are our superpowers. And when neurotypical people don't understand my thinking, I'm just like, how do you not get it? But then, like, you know, the meme where the geography and all of that is like on the board, like that's what they probably see us, and we're just like, no, like I'm explaining it. This is what it is. So just know that you are unique and you are great.
I love it. I love it.
Do you want to go, Amy?
Yeah, Amy, want to go? Amy, you go. Amy,
Okay.
Sure, I'll go. Yeah.
Amy
I'll go.
doesn't want to go.
Okay, so overall, it's just like what I said earlier. Just like don't let people win. For me personally, it was always taking that and turning it into fuel. A lot of underdogs. That's how. It's funny when you look back on it because people are like, "You're not an underdog anymore." I'm like, "I've always been an underdog. Like you just didn't see what came before. Like I was literally an underdog my whole life, man." But you take that fuel and turn it into something good. Turn it into, oh, well, I'm going to try harder, but not to the point of detrimental to yourself, if that makes sense. Because you never want to push yourself too far. I've been there. Don't do it. It's very hard to know your limits, but when you find your limits, it's like, okay, great. No one can stop me now. So literally nowhere. I don't have limits. There are none. Because I know when you get to know yourself better than anyone else does, boom, you're set, man. So like positive affirmation of yourself, it's going to go a long way. Know your limits mentally. After you're done with the school for a day, know your limits. Like I can't do any more school. Know them, because to some point, if you're getting piles and piles and piles of homework every night, and it's just draining you to no end, maybe your school and your parents and your inclusion teacher, maybe they need to look into that. Communicate with them if that's going to be like a serious problem for you, if you have no time for your outlet. Because your outlet, if you can't put into your strength, you can't put into you. Therefore, your cup, this cup, would be like right here. It would be almost empty. Wouldn't that be so sad? We want your cup up here so you can pour it back into yourself. Lovely. That was a great analogy. Okay.
Great for Amy. Amy, you were just like channeling wisdom like I've never seen.
I mean, the cup, that was perfect.
For someone not having, you said I don't have anything to say. You have a lot of stuff to say. I want to say something too, and the things you guys said, I would have said if you didn't say it. But in that case, I would say something else, and that is educate yourself, and if you're a parent, educate yourself on the child's diagnosis, because especially for a child, if you understand that there are more to your diagnosis than what you've been taught at school, so many great things that come with this diagnosis, but you need to understand how your work, otherwise it will be very difficult, because you need to communicate. If you understand yourself, you can communicate what you need, and you can go to the bullies and say, hey, this is why I need to do the things I need to do. So understanding yourself is the key. And then a continuation of what you guys said. One thing that helped me a lot is asking myself, why do I want to do this, or do someone else want me to do this? Because I had my whole life, I wanted to prove that I could do stuff, because I've been told that I couldn't do things. I need to prove myself. And what happened, of course, I got sick and I struggled with health the majority of my life. So whenever you feel like, oh, I need to show this teacher or need to show my mom or my friends, why? Is it on the, if you do this, do you destroy your health? Do you destroy your mental health? Yourself, you need to come first. And you need to find out a balance, like you guys said, find a balance of what that is. And take that time you take to understand yourself and find your balance on things are better spent than you sitting 4 hours with homework.
Y'all are amazing, by the way. I just want you to know. Well, listen, and with that being said, everyone, I do hope that you have a great night. And thank you so much for tuning in. And for those that were with us this whole time, thanks for joining us. We're going to be doing this a lot more I hope this was helpful. We'd love your feedback. And if you are interested in signing your child up with a mentor with us, everyone is open to taking on mentees. Please reach out to me. We're giving a free month when you sign up. So just please make sure you do that. If you were coming from this call, just let me know. And with that, just have a great night. Mads, good night. Go back to sleep. And we'll see you all
Bye,
again.
Mads.
Okay? Bye.
Bye.